This is every single fight to make next after UFC Fight Night Nashville Sandhagen versus Font. I have all of the key fighters from that card on the screen right now. Some winners, some losers, and you may notice there is an empty box next to all of them, and that's where their next opponent's going to go, who I have hidden around the perimeter of the screen. I'll slowly reveal those opponents one by one as the video goes on and place them where they belong on the screen. It's time for a low view video. But I like making these videos anyway on a Sunday. It's kind of a routine. So even though the card was very weak and uneventful, I'm still going to match these guys up. So Cory Sandhagen won in the main event, and he called out the winner of Aljamain Sterling versus Sean O'Malley. Very strange, because I thought it was very clear that once Aljamain Sterling destroys Sean O'Malley, he's going to move up to the featherweight division, and then it's going to be Sandhagen versus Merab for the vacant Bantamweight World Championship, because they would be the two most deserving by far in that division. Merab Dvalishvili versus Cory Sandhagen as the vacant title fight for the Bantamweight division. That is if O'Malley does beat Sean O'Malley. If Sean O'Malley beats O'Malley, if Sean O'Malley beats Aljamain Sterling, then I think I've messed up the names there. If Sterling beats O'Malley. If O'Malley beats Sterling, then he's going to stay in the division. Probably look to defend straight away against Cory Sandhagen. So either way, Cory Sandhagen's going to be in a title fight. I know it wasn't the most exciting performance, but what can you really do? He's the most deserving by far, and it was a 50-45. So Cory Sandhagen wins. I reckon it should be him versus Merab for the vacant belt once Aljo defeats O'Malley and tries to move up to take on Alexander Volkanovski if he does get past Ilia Topuria at the end of this year. We move on to another fighter who lost in the main event. Rob Font got absolutely demolished, but not in a way that was damaging whatsoever or entertaining. But he did get demolished. 50-45 across the board. No chance for him whatsoever. No damage taken, to be fair, although he did take some elbows and some ground and pound shots. It was nothing too crazy that he had to watch out for. And he didn't have any visible damage. He didn't get concussed in the fight or wobbled in the fight. So I think that Rob Font should be looking to get right back in there against Song Yadong, the guy who he was originally preparing for. If Song Yadong's injury is only going to be a minor situation, then I feel like they could delay that fight until December and put it on the December pay-per-view card, maybe put it in the co-main event of a December fight night card. Either of those options makes sense, but I think they can just immediately run it back and say, listen, Rob Font, thank you for doing us a favor by taking this fight against Sandhagen. You took absolutely zero damage. You want to make some money. We got a Song Yadong fight for you at the end of the year. And I don't think Rob Font should be looking to take any time off after that bad of a performance. We move on to the co-main event. Tatiana Suarez defeats Jessica Andrade with ease in the second round. And now I want to put her against Carla Esparza. She's already beaten her, but let's see it again, please, because we need to get rid of Carla Esparza. That's what we kind of need to do right now. That's the next objective of the women's strawweight division. It would have been to try and get rid of Nami Yunus, but Nami Yunus has now moved up to flyweight to lose to Manon Fiorot instead. Now we need to get rid of Carla Esparza because we just need to get rid of these women from the strawweight division so we can move on and have some interesting matchups, because Tatiana Suarez is probably guaranteed to beat Carla Esparza at this point. You don't want to put some striking prospect at strawweight up against Carla Esparza down the line and have Esparza go back on a 2-fight win streak and get a title shot. No. Must be destroyed. Must be absolutely eradicated from the strawweight division. Suarez versus Esparza 2, please. We move on to another fighter. Dustin Jacoby won in the feature fight against Kennedy Nzechukwu. Took absolutely zero damage, so I need to see him back again before the end of the year. He had a great performance against Nzechukwu. He's back on track. I don't think he's going to get a guy in the top 10, but he will be getting a guy in the top 15 in my opinion, and that guy is Alonzo Menifield, coming off a win against Jimmy Crute, ranked, I believe, number 14 in the light heavyweight division. Jacoby's ranked number 15. Maybe after that win over Nzechukwu, he's going to move above Alonzo Menifield, but either way, they're both ranked. They're both coming off wins. They both need some momentum before they get a top 10 opponent. Jacoby versus Menifield in December on the prelims of a pay-per-view. Sign me up. That's a great fight. Now we move on to an actual interesting matchup because Diego Lopes looked absolutely amazing in his fight against Gavin Tucker. Finished him in the first round with ease. Triangle. Nasty, nasty transition as well. Diego Lopes can't take on bottom feeder competition here. He just can't. He's got to get some kind of talent against him. And that talent is JSP, Jonathan Pearce. 4-0 in the featherweight division, the men's featherweight division. And I'll be honest with you, they were going to give him Bryce Mitchell. I don't think he really deserved a ranked opponent yet. I know he was ranked, but he beat Darren Elkins and like Makwana Mirkani. Like, it wasn't... Those aren't wins that I'm really, really impressed by. You know what I'm saying? Those are really... That's like beating Tim Means, and then it's time for a top 10 guy in the men's welterweight division. It just doesn't make sense. So I think Jonathan Pearce versus Diego Lopes should take place very soon. Diego Lopes took no damage. Jonathan Pearce got injured for a fight with Bryce Mitchell a few months ago. He said he's probably getting back in there soon, maybe before the end of the year. So before the end of the year, let's get these guys back in there. Diego Lopes, Jonathan Pearce. Winner gets maybe number 15 in the rankings, or winner gets a top 15 opponent in general. That's the matchup I need to see happen. There's no real other talent outside the rankings at featherweight that I can really put against Lopes right now, other than maybe Elves Brenner, but I don't think the timing's going to work out because Brenner took a lot of damage against Kutateledze. We move on. Tanner Boser got a big win over Alexa Kamur, where he used him like a heavy bag for 3 rounds, but Kamur showed a hell of a chin. So I think Tanner Boser versus Kennedy Nzechukwu. Just because Boser took some damage, he went to a scrap. It's not like he got a first round KO, so he is going to need a little bit of time off. And Nzechukwu did get TKO'd. It's not going to be a crazy amount of damage where he needs to take 6 months off, but maybe January, start of the year, they do a fight night card in Canada, and they do Tanner Boser versus Kennedy Nzechukwu on that card because they're on similar schedules, and they just fought on the same card. We move on. Ludovic Klein got a big upset win over Ignacio Bahamondes, ruining a prospect in the lightweight division. So I think he should be looking to take on, after Paris, whenever they're back in Europe, okay, because they need to go back to Europe somewhere other than London or Paris at this point. There's a whole other... there's a whole other 95% of the continent that they're not yet traveling to. So once they start going back to Europe, maybe they do a card in Poland early next year, and they could do like a Jan Blachowicz versus Nikita Krylov matchup on there. They could also do a Ludovic Klein versus Mateusz Rebecki on that card, who is a Polish prospect. So I think they should go to Poland in January. Jan Blachowicz, Nikita Krylov too, with like a bunch of other Polish talent on the card. Maybe they find a matchup for Mateusz Gamrot. They find this matchup in Klein versus Rebecki. I reckon they could put together a pretty decent Polish card. We move on to another fighter. Billy Quarantillo won against Damon Jackson. Took some damage as usual. I feel like that's sort of a guarantee with Billy Quarantillo's fights, is that he's going to take a lot of damage before he does get the win. So he is going to need some time off, but a matchup I'd love to see, because I don't think he's quite ready yet, and it does make sense schedule-wise because this guy went to a decision on the very same card, is him versus Sean Woodson. I think it'd be a great matchup. Winner gets an actual decent opponent outside the rankings. I'm just worried that we do this thing to Billy Quarantillo where he comes off a win, you give him a really, really talented guy, he gets a ton of damage and loses, and then you put him against a less than good guy and he beats them, and then he's back in to fight a very talented guy. I think he needs to build some momentum before we chuck him back in there against like the top 25, top 30 of the featherweight division. So Billy Quarantillo versus Sean Woodson makes sense to me. We move on. Kyler Phillips got a big win over Raoni Barcelos, and that is a huge win, a very underrated win as well, because Raoni Barcelos is no joke. He beat Said Nurmagomedov, you know what I mean? He's a very, very good fighter, but Kyler Phillips is going to need a matchup in the bantamweight division, and seeing as Umar Nurmagomedov's got a shoulder injury, and he's going to be out for quite some time, I imagine we're not going to be seeing Umar Nurmagomedov until maybe like February or March of next year, because shoulder injuries are no joke. We know that from Yuri and other people that have gone through them. It seems to take him out of action for like 8 months at least. So I think Umar, hopefully all things are good and he can return soon, but it's looking like Umar's going to be back in 2024. So I think Kyler Phillips versus Ricky Simone in December. In the meantime, I know Ricky Simone recently lost to Song Yadong, but it wasn't that short of time ago. It was quite some time ago now. I think it's been about 2 months since we saw that fight, or maybe even more, maybe 2.5 months, something like that. So Ricky Simone is probably going to be looking to get back in there in December. So Kyler Phillips, Ricky Simone, let's see who's going to stay in the rankings, and maybe the winner of that can take on Umar Nurmagomedov in that bantamweight division. But that's a good matchup I'd like to see, because I want to see Kyler Phillips defend against a capable wrestler like Ricky Simone, because Kyler Phillips has a win over Song Yadong, so he's got some really relevant good wins in the bantamweight division. I think it's time to give him a chance against a ranked opponent yet again. Great matchups all across the board. I like Diego Lopes versus Jonathan Pierce. But yeah, Sandhagen versus Merab is the move. He was calling out for the winner of Aljo versus O'Malley. I'm imagining he's hoping O'Malley's going to somehow pull off the win so he can get an immediate title shot against a good style matchup. But then who knows? Maybe take down O'Malley for 5 rounds with his new fight style. Who knows what Sandhagen's going to do? But I think Aljo's going to beat O'Malley. O'Malley's probably going to be looking to try and rematch Marlon Vera however way he can. So if Marlon Vera gets past Pedro Munoz, or maybe if Munoz gets past Marlon Vera, they could run that fight back as well. There's controversy in both of those fights. So I think O'Malley will be looking for the winner of Munoz versus Vera. Likely Vera. He's hoping for, I'm sure. Aljo's going to be looking to move up to the featherweight division. And who knows, might try and be a backup for the Volkanovski-Topuria matchup in December. And then try and get the winner after that. And in that time, it's time to make Sandhagen versus Merab. Maybe at the start of 2024. February pay-per-view. Something along those lines. I think that's the perfect matchup to make at bantamweight. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Toodle pip. I'll see you later. Goodbye.